Welcome to the Carousel of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Allie Wagner. On last week's episode, I took you behind the scenes of psychic Deborah Keyes' visit to the Carousel. She generously shared her gifts and her skills as a house healer to give the Carousel an energetic reading, and you learned about a very special angel who looks over the Carousel of Happiness. On today's episode, we're going to switch gears and talk about our healing relationship with animals. What can we learn from animals to make us better humans? I'll share a conversation I had with Genie Joseph, founder of the Tucson-based nonprofit organization, The Human-Animal Connection. Genie is a dog trainer, animal communicator, and animal chaplain. Her organization is dedicated to bringing people and animals together for the healing of both. Genie is a recipient of President Obama's Silver Volunteer Service Award. She and her therapy dog, Sophia, have visited and helped more than 4,000 service members, veterans, youth, elderly, and incarcerated people. Genie hosts the Human-Animal Connection podcast on Pet Life Radio, where she reaches more than 12,000 listeners a month. Genie and I talked about how a pitbull named Oscar changed the trajectory of her life, what animals can teach us about our sense of safety, and how curiosity and choice can be revolutionary in the healing of both humans and animals. Let us begin with today's story. Genie Joseph had a good life before she met Oscar. She was living in Hawaii, teaching improv theater to service members and their families to help them handle stress, cope with trauma, and mitigate their anxiety and depression symptoms. Her work was meaningful and interesting, and it clearly had an impact on the veterans she served. But everything changed when she met Oscar. Genie met Oscar at a high-kill shelter in Hawaii. The pitbull mix had had a rough life, and it showed. He was covered in scars and scratches and missing several teeth. But Genie knew he'd be a good therapy dog. He attuned himself well to human emotions, and he had a strong desire to help. According to Genie, only around 20% of dogs have this specific combination of traits that she thinks makes them stellar emotional support animals. So Genie wasn't surprised when she brought Oscar with her to meet a group of veterans. They were sitting in a circle that day, and Oscar dutifully went around to each and every soldier, greeting everyone. He would say hello, receive some scratches and some pets, and then move on to the next person, one by one. That part didn't surprise Genie. What surprised her was that there were some soldiers Oscar refused to dismiss so quickly. For some soldiers, Oscar would sit quietly in front of them and wait. And wait. And wait. Oscar waited patiently, and he waited quietly, without fuss, without fanfare, without explanation or justification. He simply sat, and he waited. His furry little pit bull face covered in scars and scratches. Until, eventually, reluctantly most times, the soldier in front of him would cave. Their defenses would be softened for a moment, and that soldier would reach out and give Oscar a quick scratch or a pet. Then, when Oscar was satisfied with the amount of attention he had received, he would move on to greet the next person in the circle. That's when Genie realized Oscar was giving her an alert. He was giving her a sign. And this alert wasn't something that Genie had taught him how to do. It was something he just intuitively knew how to do. Genie realized that Oscar sitting in front of certain soldiers was his way of alerting her to who was suicidal in that moment. This alert was his way of communicating to Genie what he sensed, and his refusal to move was his way of wiggling past the service members' defenses, hitting them smack dab in their hearts, one scratch at a time. Genie was amazed. She had known what healing was possible with service members in her work with improv theater, but she had never seen anything like this. Because of Oscar, she witnessed with her very own eyes the softening of defenses in a few moments that would have taken hours or weeks or years with other healing modalities. Oscar made healing simple, and he made it quick. It was in that moment Genie knew she wanted to do this work full-time. Genie believes that the soldiers saw themselves in Oscar. He, too, had been kicked around by life, and it showed. Yet there he was, self-confident in his intention to give and receive love in this moment right now. Genie believes one of the greatest lessons we can learn from animals is how to regain our sense of safety. Our sense of safety is a foundational component to our well-being of all beings. When we are healthy, we orient ourselves towards what is safe and good for us. But when we experience trauma, that compass gets a little out of whack. After trauma, we tend to point ourselves in the direction of similar traumatic experiences, not because they are good for us, but because they are familiar. You've seen this before. Maybe you have a friend who goes after the same kind of partner over and over again. Someone who is likely not good for them. Sure, this person might be different. They might look different or have a different name than the person before, but ultimately they are the same person. They are the same energy. That is your friend reaching out for what is familiar, not what is safe. Genie says that working with animals can teach us a lot about our own sense of safety. In the animal kingdom, animals naturally move towards what feels good and away from what feels bad. Makes sense, right? The problem with humans sometimes is that we force each other to ignore our sense of safety in the name of social acceptance. For example, we might walk into a party and immediately not like the energy of the space, but we stay anyway because it would be quote-unquote rude to leave so soon. Slowly and gradually over time, making decisions like this teaches us to disregard our sense of safety to our own detriment. But animals don't do this. When they feel unsafe, when they don't like the energy of a person or a place, they respond accordingly. They might move into another room or bark or refuse to get in the car. They are naturally wired, when not traumatized, to go with what feels safe to them. Genie has 2 therapy donkeys, Lily and Rosie. And apparently, Lily and Rosie can teach us a lot about the sensory experience of safety. Lily and Rosie came to live with Genie when they lost their home in the LA wildfires. They are a bonded pair, mother and daughter, and they love doing healing work with Genie. When visitors come to the Human-Animal Connection Sanctuary in Tucson and spend time with Rosie and Lily, they learn what it feels like in their bodies to feel a sense of safety. Rosie and Lily help participants attune to that sense of safety, and later, how to set kind but firm boundaries when they feel unsafe. The truth is, our bodies are registering this sense of safety all the time, whether or not we're aware of it. And what Genie, Lily, and Rosie do is they help participants become more conscious of how we're impacted by the energy of others and what to do when that energy doesn't feel good to us. Genie tells me a story about the time that she and her dogs were attending an event and they were rushing to get out of the house. After she had left, she couldn't remember if she had given Lily and Rosie water. Even though she was late, she turned around, drove back to the house, and checked on their water. When Genie came into their paddock, Lily and Rosie bolted far away from her, not something they'd normally do. But in that moment, they did, because she was rushed and scattered, and they wanted nothing to do with that energy. Genie noticed it, made sure that they got water, and left the house. When she returned and was calm, both donkeys came out to say hello, just like they normally would. Animals will let us know what energy we've got going on, and more importantly, they will let us know if that energy is something that feels good to them or not. That is how they teach us, by example. Genie says that Lily and Rosie help human beings become aware of the sensations in their bodies that tell them they are safe and the ones that tell them they are unsafe. Then they teach human beings how to honor these internal sensations and set boundaries if they need to, just like they did when Genie came home in a rush. Genie says the donkeys don't mind if we're scared or if we're angry. What they don't like is when we pretend to feel something we're not. They don't enjoy or understand mixed emotions very well. It's confusing to them. So they can teach us how to own our own feelings regardless of what those feelings are. Genie tells me about a 22-year-old developmentally disabled woman in a wheelchair who visited Rosie and Lily. This woman was unable to speak and was easily triggered by noise and sudden movements, something that created a lot of stress for her family. Her family often found themselves apologizing for or explaining their daughter's behavior to other human beings. When the woman arrived, the donkeys surrounded her immediately, offering her the sense of protection they knew she craved. This allowed the woman to relax, as well as her caregivers, who were frequently on alert because of her outward displays of emotions in public. Genie explains that the donkeys didn't see the woman's disability. They didn't see her wheelchair. They didn't see the trappings of her condition. What they saw was her soul's essence, and they responded to its needs accordingly, offering her soul that sense of protection they knew it needed in that moment. And because of their ability to sense and respond from this place, this neutral place, everyone was able to take a big, deep breath. Genie has so many of these stories of interactions between humans and animals that allows for an understanding of something deeper between us, a relationship that transcends our bodies and allows us to feel what it feels like to connect soul to soul. And it's not just the humans who are beneficiaries of the work Genie does. Her organization focuses on bringing humans and animals together for the healing of both. This is not one-sided. This goes both ways. Genie tells me about a dog she met at a shelter. He was very withdrawn and didn't play with other dogs in the yard. She decided to take him home. When she did, she let him outside in her yard, and she just watched him. She watched him decide how he wanted to spend his time in each and every moment. First, he moved into the shade to see how that felt. Then, he sniffed the ground. Next, he decided it was time to get a sip of water. Moment by moment, Genie watched him make choices. Do this, not that. Sniff this, not that. And each time this dog made a choice, she noticed he regained a sense of agency, a sense of power. Each time he made a choice, he became more empowered. Animals, and human beings for that matter, who do not have the freedom to choose, slowly over time become disempowered and traumatized. That is why it's important to Genie that all of the therapy animals she works with have a choice. They have free will. If they don't want to visit with humans on a particular day, she does not force them, because she knows when animals have a choice, they can heal, and they can in turn be a healing force for humans. That is because curiosity and fear cannot coexist. They are different frequencies. You cannot be curious and fearful at the same time. They are literally different radio stations. In fact, according to Genie, curiosity is actually the antidote to fear, which is what she saw with that shelter dog in her backyard. When I asked Genie for her advice on how we can be better companions and supporters of our animal friends, she says acknowledging that animals have their own innate wisdom is a huge first step. They know what is best for them, and honoring those desires is a huge component to gaining their trust. She says that when you're giving your animal friends some love, be sure to pay attention to whether or not you're giving touch or taking touch. If you are giving touch to your animal companions, you're paying attention to them. You're noticing if they're pulling away or if they're leaning in. You're observing their preferences and honoring these preferences. That means when they're done, you're done. When we take touch from animals, on the other hand, we're not present. We're not noticing whether or not they're enjoying it. We're mindlessly taking touch from them. And if they show us in their behavior that they are done, we continue to do it anyway. In reflecting on my conversation with Genie, I can't help but feel gratitude. Gratitude that animals exist, gratitude that they're in my lives, gratitude for the lessons that I've learned from them. How about you? What has your healing relationship been with animals? In real life physical form, or in Scott's case, in wooden form, there is something about the dynamic between humans and animals that allows for the healing of both. And Genie Joseph knows this. She knows this because she saw it that first day with Oscar, and she knows it because she's seen it steadily, consistently over time ever since. What have you learned from Genie's story? What ideas or thoughts or impulses are percolating within you as a result of these stories? And how can you take what you've learned today, how you feel now in your body, and go forth into your day, shaping it for the better? If you're interested in learning more about Genie, check out her website in the show notes. She's available for consultations both in person and remote, and you can find tons of free information on her website. If you want to understand the healing dynamic between humans and animals, be sure to check out her site. You can also listen to her podcast on Pet Life Radio. In the meantime, take care. Be well. And as we like to say at the Carousel of Happiness, don't delay joy. And we'll see you next time around.
Beginnings and endings are only pretendings. I'll see you next time around. I'll see you next time.